morning, everybody, and welcome to our Making It Together live educational event. I'm your host today, Josh Ellsworth from Stahls, and today is a special edition. We're doing Q&A. So I know some of you have submitted questions in advance, so I have some of those to kind of get us started. I've also prepared a project that came in from a separate question over the weekend where I wanted to try something for myself to see if it works. You can come along with us on that journey. But as you're joining here this morning, I would encourage you to feel free to ask any question. Maybe questions about your business, if you're thinking of investing in a technology, if you just want to know what is the best product for a certain job, and that's something you can put into words and type into the comment streams here. We are going live today. We have about an hour of time together. And so I'm hoping that you all have a lot of questions that you'd like answered, some of those burning questions about your business or things that you would like help with, and we will work our way through them and take them live on air. So as we are getting started here this morning, want to encourage you to shout out exactly who you are and where you're watching from. Craig, good to see you this morning from Washington. Thanks for joining us. It's good to see all of you other folks that are chiming in, that are watching here this morning. Our numbers are rapidly going up every session. It seems like it doesn't matter right now how many times we go live. There's a lot of interested folks, which is great to see. It means that you are working on your business. You're wanting to learn new things about your business. And I read a comment earlier from, I think it was Patrice, that said, even if I pick up one thing or two things for my business in an hour class, it's so worth it, so worth my time. So hopefully we can bring those one or two things to you here in this morning's session. Good to see Michelle from Appleton, Wisconsin, Joseph from Sacramento, Carol from Lexington, Illinois, and Brian from Connecticut, and KF from South Carolina. So lots of our friends and customers on today. And let's get started with the topic that I know I've come to love in recent days and in the last week, and that is face masks. So we've been talking a lot about them, so I'm not going to go too deep on them, but noticed a couple comments on the Facebook group and a couple questions, so I want to address them both. Our goal at Stahls is to set clear expectations for what you'll be receiving when you order a product from us. And that's why last week, even before we launched the face masks, I tried to go live and give you an up-close look at all of them and take all of your questions around that. And we'll continue to try to do that and tell you the difference between our economy grade face mask and a premium grade face mask. We've chose to carry two different styles, and there are a lot of choices out there. Our real business is not selling face masks. It's logos to go on apparel products, which now include face masks in our world. But we wanted to be able to connect a couple choices to you. So let me review those options and also address some of the questions and comments that came in. So first off, our economy grade face mask, which is on the website, comes in three different colors: a navy, a dark heather gray, and also a black. It has two ear slots on the side. It can stretch and go on a little bit. It is a 5.5 ounce fabric. So that will give you some perspective on thickness. Compare it to your t-shirt weight. That's a universal weight of measurement that people give on their t-shirt styles. So pick the t-shirt that you source and figure out how many ounces of fabric it is. I believe it's in a square yard is how they weigh it. It'll be called out, and that will give you some perspective on the thickness, because I know you can't come through the screen and touch it. So this is designed to be economy. We're selling them in 10 packs for $1.59 each. The idea is that you can logo them if you want and provide them at a low cost to your customer. And so this is how this one fits. Very easy to put on, feels good against the face. It's just like wearing a t-shirt. I like to put the logo down at the bottom so you can still see the branding and it doesn't affect the breathing. But this gives you an idea of our economy masks, and we've linked to those. Now, if that's not your cup of tea and you want something more premium, we've launched our version of a premium mask. It is a 3-ply product. It has an outer polyester layer, polyester backing that in between the layers seals in a piece of Pellon, which acts as the filter. We carry this style in adult and youth. And actually, based on feedback, we've made a modification to the adult already where it has 2 ear slots as well. So if you've placed your order with us, you will get the improved mask delivered to you on all of the orders that we have taken, which means it will adjust to both a larger head like mine and a smaller head, and you'll have kind of a little bit of a variety there. So borrowing the idea from having 2 slots here, 2 slots in this ear hole so you can fit that on. It is sold in white, black, gray, is fully sublimatable, and so we've sublimated a graphic on it. This mask goes for, at the blanks, $2.99 per mask, and minimum order quantity is 150. And I know there's a lot of different folks that are pulling together orders, splitting and breaking apart orders on your own. We certainly encourage that. As of right now, though, the 150 quantity is what we'll be going with. We've seen really strong orders on both styles, really, but they are different. And so I wanted to point those out to you. One question that we had prior to this is, what is the durability? And so, some people position these cotton masks as single use. You can wash the mask like anything. If you wash a piece of fabric, it is going to curl up, but it can be stretched back out over the face. So it still is functional after you wash it, and it cleans it, and then you can wear it again. It's just a piece of cotton poly fabric, so no big deal there. But if you want something that's a little bit more durable and reusable, we've certified this one for over 50 wash cycles. Polyester is typically a more durable fabric in the wash. It has a heavier construction with the 3 layers and the built-in Pellon layer, so you should expect very good durability when you're laundering this one. It has some rigidity. So as we said up front on those, it was a 2 to 3 week turn time on blanks in the premium style. We are rapidly working to restock the economy style. And then our hope is that sometime next week or the following week, we will have in stock of the premium mask, which will be 48-hour turn. All right. And then another question was, I noticed that you've added U sizes. Is it possible to add to an order, or I have to make a separate order? If you just fill out the form on the premium mask link, or maybe message us at info@stahls.com, we can reach out and see where your order's at in the process and be able to add to that order. And so, yeah, there are youth and adult in the premium masks. All right. Yeah, good. Takes too long. We agree. We are in the ramp up process of this. We want to get these masks to a 48-hour turn. And so we are working to build up our inventory and our stock, so we're not operating on pre-order, that we have stock and we're shipping within 48 hours, probably sooner than that, but we want 48 hours just so we under promise, over deliver is our goal here. So hopefully that gets us around the face mask topic. So feel free to ask any question you want about business, not just face coverings. And I'm encouraging all those questions live on air today about your business. And yes, the youth size of the premium mask, Maria, comes in all the same colors as the adult sizes as well. And we can even sublimate it for you. It costs a little bit more, but if you want to send us your design and have us print it for you, you can get a fully printed mask ready to sell. And I know some folks that are doing like patterns and camouflage or stars and stripes and all kinds of different patterns to stock those as well. So one of the things that I have in, and this will help you think of your questions, is a project. And hey, Alan, good to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us this morning. I received this photo. Let me show it to you. Pull it up over here. I received this photo of an image from a customer and saying, what are your ideas? How can I make this? So I love getting these sorts of ideas because it really is a look that you want to make. This is what a customer would bring to you and say, can you do this for me? And so, of course, we talk all about heat pressing and heat printing technology here. So when I start to think of this design, I start to think of how can I accomplish this with the heat press. So yeah, the look's really cool. I showed something similar to this look a while back where we kind of cut into, I believe it was a V-neck hoodie, and made the design integrate with the shirt. And there's something really cool about that, whether you are going into a pocket and kind of cutting off your design as if the pocket's sewn over top, or going into a neckline or a seam on a sleeve. I think that's it's it's really neat. And so, yeah, if you've done stuff like this, I'd love to see you, share that whenever you comment in our Heat Press for Profit Facebook group, show photos of some of the work that you've done. We'd love to see it. And so let's head in and let's try to recreate this look. And of course, I'm not a graphic designer, but it starts with the art. And so I'm going to go into CAD-Works today, which is our design studio. Bring that a little closer. And I also want to share some exciting stuff that's happening in CAD-Works here while we have some downtime to be able to create some things. So the first thing I want to share is we've started to add new templates into CAD-Works. For those of you who are loyal users, if you go into the templates menu and you click on this folder called 2020 New, you will see some new templates. We're trying to add templates every day. And so you're able to get templates from some of our creative folks like Jenna. And then we have a lady by the name of Sarah that's also helping to populate this with new designs. She designs artwork for our trade show booths, which are always some really cool looks. And so check that out for new templates. And then something else that we're doing is also new fonts, which I'll show you here in a second. But to create this design, it starts with a piece of clip art. We will be working to build out our clip art library a little bit as well. And this is our free online designer. I'm just going to grab a bulldog. I'm going to weed this live on air. So I'm going to stick with a pretty simple one here. Open that up. And then let's size it up a little bit because we know it's going to be big. I'm not sure how big yet. We're going to measure it in a second. And then from our original design, if we take another peek at that, it looks like it had dog strong going across the top right with the bulldog facing the opposite direction from what I have it now. So I'm going to start by going into shaping and mirroring this. So that's a tool within CAD-Works. I can mirror that to get him facing the right direction. Looks like he might have been on a little bit of an angle. So let me put him on an angle. And then I'm going to drop some text into place. Let's go caps lock. I'm going to go dog for the first line of the text. Go to my font selection menu. And the new fonts that I was telling you about that we just uploaded yesterday are under a 2020 new folder. So right up at the top. And you'll see a whole selection of new fonts that we've just added into CAD-Works Live. So hopefully you guys enjoy some of this. Let's pick something that's a little bolder for an athletic look. I'm going to go with, let's go with this Handle Gothic. Open that up. And then I'll click OK. I'm going to do all the sizing in here, so I'm not too worried about the sizing. Let me duplicate that by going to Edit, Duplicate, and then I'm just going to double click on it, and then that's going to allow me to change my text to get my second line of text with the same font. And from there, I can select everything and rotate these together and position them in the location that I'm looking for, being able to select them individually or together, size them around, and change them from there. So let me take a peek back at my original artwork to see if I'm getting close. Yeah, it looks like it was dog strong coming down the face of the bulldog here. At any time when you're using CAD-Works, you can hold the Control key to be able to select multiple objects or items. And that looks fairly good. Now I want to select the whole object and kind of see what size I'm looking at. So right now, CAD-Works shows your size right up in the top of the screen. Hopefully you're seeing that here. It's 24 inches wide by 16 inches high. One restriction that I know I have is I'm working with 15-inch wide vinyl today because it's the color that I had that I knew I could use. So I want to make sure it doesn't exceed the width of my vinyl that I'm cutting. And so for that reason, I'm just going to size it down a little bit and try to get it to fit on my 15-inch wide vinyl, bearing in mind that I do have some pinch rollers here that are going to get in the way. So 14.1 inch on the height. I'm going to rotate it and send it through the cutter. Should be pretty good. And it looks like I can get to about 21 inches on the width based on how I've laid it out. Now, I can always disproportionately size something, which isn't a general best practice, but it is something that you can do to try to get it to show up a little bit better and move some stuff around. Let me take one more look. So 14.27 by 21.4. So now let's head over to our shirt and our heat press and take a look before I send this to the cutter. So we're over here. I have my shirt and I have a tape measure ready at the heat press. You can see I was kind of playing a little bit before our session to think how I would approach this job. And we have a 16 by 20 platen. That's my largest platen. So of course, it would be really convenient if I could just go 20 inches wide. And if it were a youth shirt and I could just rotate the shirt and press it all at once on here. But I have an adult large shirt that I'm going to show it on today. So that's not going to quite work. But I know this is a 20-inch measurement right here. And so 21 inches is going to start to extend out into the seam structure. So I can measure it exactly. It was 21.14. Hold it out. And I think that'll be a pretty good size. I may justify a little bit right so I bring that text over onto the sleeve in the way I want to see it work. So that size should be good. So with that in mind, we're going to do some vinyl cutting with it. And so I have my, doing a little room tour here today. I have my vinyl cutter set up by my window today on this side of the room to give me a little bit more space behind me. It's the Graphtec CE6000. I'm going to send that to cut. So let me pull up my designer again. I'm going to go up to File and click on Send a Vector Cut, which will download that image, and make sure I click on OK. And you can see it downloaded down into the bottom of the screen. Now when I click to open that from within my browser, this is pulling it down from the web to my local device. And let me move it so you can see it. And you can see I have my image onto my text. Now I'm going to have to move back over just for a second so I can see in front of my screen. It's tough to see it 3 feet away and use it. And at this point, I need to set my material width. So my material width on my cutter, I'm just going to go peek at it real quick. I have 14.118 is the exact material width. So I'm going to go and stretch the full amount, and let's go 14.1. And my length, I have about a yard of material loaded in there. So I'm going to type in 36 inches. And that gives me some indication of my material. At this point, naturally, we're going to rotate the design. Going to see if it will fit. Really pressing the limit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to size it down slightly and sacrifice a little bit here. It'll be fine. And I can use this tool called Auto Origin, which will bring it down into the bottom of the screen. And then I'm going to have to zoom just to make sure I'm not crossing over the edges of this material. It looks like I'm going to remove this auto weed border that's around it. I don't really need that because I'm going to be using the whole material. And it looks like I fit on the material on all sides just to give myself a little bit of tolerance. I'm going to move it off the edge just a fraction here on this right side so I can see some clear space in between both sides to prepare it to cut. Now, in this process, after you rotate it, it's tough to see. I don't think I mirrored the image, so let me mirror that. And it still should fit in the same location, and that should be ready to cut. So I'm using, this design's 20.5 inches. By the time with the lead-in edge and everything's done, I'm going to be using 2 linear feet of material to do this design. So if you're sourcing a material that's, let's say, $6 a yard, I'm going to have $4 in cost of material with all the waste and everything. Something that might be kind of interesting is see if you can squeeze another $5 in profit out of the shirt by cutting another piece of personalization in this open space that's really tough to avoid and be able to go from there. Now, the other thing I just thought of is I have it on this angle, but if I wanted to fit more designs, I can double click on this and I can actually rotate it for a little bit better positioning onto the material. And then that should free me up a little bit more space to fit extra designs down the side if I spend some time and really rotate because I want to cut multiple images. So once you're good with all of that, I need to plug in my vinyl cutter with a USB cable. Anytime you're sending something that's longer than, say, 10 inches or so, I usually like to pre-feed my material before I cut, which is something I've done. Then I'm going to go ahead and send this cut job. But before I do, let me get you a close-up view of the cutter. There we go. Got the cutter set up, ready to cut. And then looking back on this screen, we're going to click Send Cut Job. And it says Processing. And it should start to cut for me. Again, feel free to ask your questions. You can see the design that we're cutting. When I'm doing a job like this, honestly, the material doesn't really matter. There's equal benefits for both hot peel and cold peel materials. Cold peel materials, the benefit is they kind of hold to the fabric and the carrier doesn't try to lift when I have to break it apart and press it in sections. Whereas a hot peel material is nice because it doesn't matter if I accidentally lift it a little bit. So it has its advantages as well. So I really wouldn't worry about your material choice. I've done jobs like this before, not quite this big, but similar jobs in glitter flake and fashion film, and even used Premium Plus. One of the big things you're going to see here is we're going to be fighting with a fair amount of seam structure in the garment. And so we're going to use a heat printing pillow. That's going to be my friend today. So those seams kind of sink down in and allow me to position the graphic and make sure it gets good adhesion and pressure for durability. This cutter uses a servo motor, so it's very quiet. It's cutting with just a standard 45-degree blade or the equivalent of that. It's pretty quick. I cut that at about 25 centimeters per second. And I'm just going to advance the material out. I can see the cut lines here. Trying to advance it out past the edge and then slice it off here with my razor tool. Scissors are going to be important for my job, and also the weeding tool. I'll move you over here just because I'm lacking table space. We're going to get the benefit of weeding on the heat press today. Does a couple things. One, on a hot peel material, it makes weeding easier. On a cold peel material, it won't do anything for you. But since I'm working with a hot peel material, this makes it easier to weed. It's up to you. I mean, if you want to heat up this base plate a little bit, if you are going to weed on your heat press, you can do that. And so now when you put the material down, it'll make it a little easier to peel out. And so I'm going to start on my corner here and just start to remove the excess material away. This is the benefit for those of you that have never used a heated weeding table or the weeding panel. Putting your material on a warm surface, the weed, when it's a hot peel, will help to pull a ton of time out of production. So you see the experience that I'm getting here with the weeding. A lot of times when you're weeding large designs, you'll get a lot of breaking and you'll hear the material when you're weeding, but because I'm heating the weeding surface on this, it's making it a lot easier. And then after that, I'm just going to take my tool and go and peel the center parts of the design out. All in all, large designs are actually easier to weed than smaller designs in most cases. So your weeding time for a large design and your labor shouldn't really vary that much. It's your heat press labor that is going to add to your total application time to complete a garment on something like this. So it's really the key costs that I'm driving are material costs and heat press labor. All right. While I'm finishing weeding this, There was another question that was asked, so I'm going to switch topics for a second in advance of the show. And I'd encourage you, if you have questions, keep typing them in. I'll take a look back here in a moment. Is the timing of a transfer we have that's going to launch called UltraColor. And this is a digital screen printed transfer from Transfer Express. If you've used or heard of our stretch litho mat, it's a improvement on that product. It's a premium version of stretch litho mat. And those of you that use stretch litho mat usually think, how could you get more premium? Well, the advantage of the UltraColor is that it's a water-based transfer. So if you've ever seen our AquaTrue in action or felt AquaTrue, which is another water-based transfer we sell from over at Transfer Express, the UltraColor is going to be a digital version of AquaTrue, more or less. So that product right now, with COVID-19 and everything that's happened, with standing up our manufacturing equipment, we don't have a definitive timeline. So I won't be able to give you a definitive timeline. However, I hope it's no more than several months at the latest would be my hope, and the indication from everything that I'm hearing and seeing based on our product development. The good news is we do have the ability to print it today, and we are printing it just for practice and for a couple strategic customers. We don't have enough capacity to be able to launch it globally, but it's working quite well. The process is all dialed in, and we just need to get all of our manufacturing equipment in and our staffing set up to be able to make it at scale. So this design is fully weeded. Tough to see there. There you go. So you can see dog strong, ready to go. Everything. You can see I cut the full design. Now, if you look back at our image, I'll show you that one more time. This is what we're trying to recreate for those of you that may be joining late. You can see, kind of like myself, we've given the bulldog a haircut here. And so there's going to be parts of the bulldog that get trimmed out that fit down around the collar area, and also parts of the bulldog that are going to be hard stops on the edges. Now, if you wanted to do this as a wraparound print and come over the shoulder, it's very difficult to come over the shoulder in some of these tighter areas on the garment. I can do this as a wraparound print completely around the garment on the side where I have a lot of space. But given that wraparound on the shoulder would just take me a tremendous amount of time, my recommendation to create a look like this would be to trim it to the shirt. And so that's what we're going to do here today, is we're going to try to trim that whole design to the shirt that we are pressing. I don't have a particularly good work surface to execute this on, so I'm going to do my best with the space that I have here. I'm going to start by, preheating the shirt to get a flat printing area, flat layout area at least. So I'm going to preheat everything right now because I don't want to, and I'm preheating from sleeve to sleeve, sideways here. So I'm hitting all those locations that the design can potentially span. So when I center it and lay it out, I'll have a room. All right, so the layout part of the process, I wanted to kind of go up into the top seam here and shoulder. So I'm going to intentionally overlap it into areas I normally wouldn't want to touch. And let me see if I can make good contact here to hold it up and show you. Actually, maybe easier this way. So you can see we have the whole design laid out here with some parts overlapping and falling off the edge or the collar. And so now I'll take my scissors and I'm going to trim it. I'm not going to trim it here on this sleeve because I like the fact that it's overlapping there. That's still hitting the garment. But I'm just going to start to trim into this carrier. And it's this simple. The toughest part is, most difficult part is not cutting your shirt. So you want to make sure you come above the shirt, get a pretty good line to cut, and then trim it and get rid of that piece. I'm just going to rotate where I can get a better angle on this stuff. So there's no doubt that this is not as efficient as being able to just cut the design exactly so it fits. And when I trim the collar, I'm actually trimming not over the, I don't even know how to say what the word for it is, the collared part itself, but it's the seam right before it meets the collar. So it's going to cut off at the seam rather than spanning over the collar, because I do have some concerns about applying directly over top of that sort of cuff part of the collar, if that makes sense. So yes, a little bit more craftsmanship in the design, more handiwork, but the idea here is that you would be able to charge a premium for creating a look like this. That would be the expectation. I would never do this on an economy budget because it is going to take some time. So the pieces that we've trimmed apart, they're just going to go in the garbage. There's really no benefit to them, but now I can get a nice look at my shirt and see it's all trimmed next to the edge. So I really don't want to move this, but I forgot to lay down my pillow. So I'm going to have to remove this from the press. I should have had my pillow down there first. And I'm just going to lay this flat on the floor so it can all stay in a good position for me. And then I'm going to bring in my heat printing pillow, which is particularly good about having seams sink down in. So 2 ways to operate with this pillow. If you're just doing one shirt, which I'm doing now, laying on top of the platen and working with it is fine. If I were doing a bunch of these, I'd probably take the time to just go ahead and peel back my quick slip cover that's on the bottom of here, and I'd lock my pillow underneath there and seal it in so I don't have to be fumbling with it as I'm working with it. So let me get my pressure locked in here before I bring the shirt back over, because I'm not going to want to be fiddling with that too much. I'm going to over apply the pressure a little bit. So I'm up at a 6, and that's even before the garment's loaded, because I want to make sure that the seams really sink down in and I get good contact. All right, so my design did move, no problem. I'm just going to reposition it. And I'm going to try to make sure I don't have a whole lot of wrinkles in the garment, because that will cause issues. And we look good. So rather than trying to rotate it and press it all at once, I'm just going to do 2 steps. So I'm going to take this half of the garment. Everything looks lined up and good there. I'm going to go ahead and lock it down, making sure that none of the garment's wrinkled underneath my vinyl. It's all nice and flat. And I'm going to press it for the full recommended time, temperature, and pressure. Sorry, I'm glancing at questions here. All right, and then delicately, I'm going to move it. If your pillow is outside like mine is today, I'm just sliding the whole pillow. Going to support this side of the shirt, and then just make sure I'm getting full contact on this side. The less travel, the better on this. Make sure this side's lined up as I want it to be. And then I'm going to press it again. I'm not worried if this side that I've already pressed once gets pressed twice. So let me press it again. And now I'm just making sure that this whole left side of the shirt is getting the full application. I'm using the Hotronics Auto Clam is the machine that I'm using. After it's been applied, I'm going to peel the backing from it. Even if it's a cold peel, most hot peel materials will peel cold. So I'm not worried about peeling it cold on that side. And I have a completed design. You really don't need to press this twice if it's a single step material. Let me back up so you can get a full look at this. And then I am going to take some of your questions. And you can see we have the Dog Strong t-shirt that's into the collar and into the seam structure. So you see how I hugged it and trimmed it right up against that collar, just right below it where the seam structure ends. And right up on the top side of the garment, we trimmed it where it meets the top seam. And then I've seen designs done where instead of coming over this seam that stretches into the arm, which we went straight over the seam, I'm not worried about it with heat transfer vinyl. Some people would trim that off and have it just flow like it cuts off at the seam. So it's all about the design aesthetic that you want, but you can see we're able to create something pretty cool in really a short amount of time. Most of it was explanation. At the heat press, I have maybe about 5 minutes per garment. So with that in mind, I'm going to take a look at some of the questions that you all have as we're going through this. All right, so the size of that design again, that was a adult large shirt. It was about 21 inches wide by about just under 14 inches on the height for the whole design, because I wanted to make sure it fit the width of my 15-inch vinyl. I'll come back to the designer just to verify that. Yeah, it was actually 12.65 by 20.29 inches. And that was for an adult large shirt. I would probably cut all the designs at similar sizes for adult shirts and then just trim them at the press based on the size. John asked a great question. Would anybody be willing to show their pricing on what they would be charging for something like that? So let's say that was a group that ordered 30 of them. What would you charge? So if you guys don't mind sharing that, I'll make sure I bring some of those responses up on the screen here in a bit. Yeah. So Freddie asked, now I know who to send my work to when I have a difficult design, laugh out loud. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know that you'll get it back very quickly, Freddie. And then let's go back. I'm going to go back up into the show notes outside of this project to see what other questions you have. Yeah, Laura's right. This would make a good template for CADWorks Live. I've created it, so I will save it, and it will be there moments after the show, which is the great thing about this. All right, looks like there's some conversations about sublimation and would it work on something like this. What I would worry about with sublimation, if you have any part of the sublimation print that's overhanging off of the press, like close to the heat, but not exactly under the heat for the right amount of time and pressure, is if it would start to like partially sublimate into the shirt, and you'd probably get some ghosting in those areas and not a really clean look. So when you're doing sublimation as a best practice, you want your entire design to fit entirely underneath your pressing surface. And so that's why folks that are doing sublimation like this, and even if you're going to do a lot of this, a lot of people will invest in a large format press. So at Stahls, we have a 22 by 22 air swinger that's kind of off catalog product that we still make for some people. And we see that used a lot for people that are going to specialize in oversized prints like this. And we can even do extra large custom pillows if that's needed. All right, let's see. Do you have that design in Mustang Strong was the question. So in CADWorks, which we use, we do have Mustang clip art, and you can easily create your own text and design. So no issues there. And there's a lot of free clip art in there. Yeah, Cassandra says she uses a foot warmer for her weeding table, really speeds up the process. Don't burn yourself on the upper platen. And so just over at Stahls, we do two types of weeding tables. We do the full weeding table, which is a large one that inclines. That's about, I think it's 2 by 3 feet roughly. So it takes up a pretty large piece of real estate, but you can weed on it and do really large jobs. And then we have the weeding panel, which is more of a small surface. Off the top of my head, I want to say it's roughly smaller than a 16 by 20 surface, maybe like 14 by 16. It just lays flat, and you can heat that up to weed your material on. So thanks. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Here's a question, more detailed question, different topic. So when doing foil and you use the adhesive first, when the glue is quite gummy and stretchy when being lifted from the carrier, what am I doing wrong? I'm doing 150, which I assume is Celsius, at 5 seconds. Quite light pressure, yeah, in the UK. Cool. Okay, so yeah, so you're doing the temperature, right? 300 degrees Fahrenheit, 150 Celsius. I think that's the conversion. If it's gummy, I would say that you are two things. You're either peeling it too quickly, or perhaps you don't have enough pressure. So usually when I heat press the adhesive background, when I'm doing a foil, what happens is if it starts to get gummy at the edge when you're peeling it, if I just give it 5 to 10 seconds and then peel, I have better results. And oftentimes when I'm like super close to a seam or something and it's really not getting enough applied pressure. So we do say light pressure, but when you start to add seams in there with a light pressure, your item's not completely flat. Those seams are actually getting the light pressure, and you may be getting no pressure on your adhesive. So I would say try a little bit more pressure. Even putting in a pillow would help you achieve pressure and kind of level out those seams as we've done here today, or waiting a little bit longer to peel it. Those would be my 2 tips for you. All right, and yeah, Pam asks, I have a new GS24 I purchased a year ago that I need training. Is there a link that I can go to? And so the Roland, we have vinyl cutter training on our Stahls TV YouTube channel. So if you go to our Stahls TV YouTube channel and you look under the playlist section, you'll be able to see some organized content in certain training streams, whether that's for printer cutter machines or vinyl cutters, or even sometimes decorating apparel for your own clothing brand. We've put together different playlists that will help you with that. So I think that should be able to help if you run into any issues where you have like connectivity issues. You can always email us and we'll connect you to our tech support team to help. Yeah, and my vinyl cutter is a Graphtec CE6000. Bought it about 4 or 5 years ago, and it works great. I love it. Okay, Cassandra says, I thought CADWorks was just for ordering transfers, not using for home cutting. So CADWorks Live is just for creating artwork, vector artwork. So you can definitely cut from CADWorks, create cuttable files from CADWorks. If you're using Vector Cut, which we showed you, you can drive your cutter directly. If you're not using Vector Cut and have your own cutter driver, because Vector Cut won't work with yours, you can just export it in a variety of file formats to be able to use it for cutting. So ordering transfers, I know it gets confusing, is our Easy View program, which is over at Transfer Express. All right, let's see. I'll take some more questions before I go down to the latest ones that have been coming, because I don't want to miss. I don't know what this is in response to. I'm sure it's something funny, but something looks like Freddie whenever his stimulus check isn't in the mail. Laugh out loud. So I'm not sure what that is, but yeah, we hope you all get your stimulus checks, your payment protection plan or payroll protection plan loans and all of that. Really important right now for the state of business that we're in. All right. Okay. So this leads right into something I wanted to make sure I covered that I forgot up front is we do have an exciting announcement on Friday. Can you give us any more teaser info? So on Friday, we have this event. We're calling it Party in the USA. So that's a little bit of teaser info there. And we are releasing a new heat transfer vinyl that is called Ultra Weed. We just sent an email communication on it. So if you're on the Stahls email list, you can kind of look in there to see the specifics as well as how to register, or visit our Stahls Facebook page and look under events. We have it set up there. So Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock, I've been waiting on this product to launch, as has our whole team and our whole company for a long time. It's something we've been working on. And I think the teaser info I would give you is that this may be the one that you can centralize your vinyl inventory on. I think it checks a lot of the boxes that you guys have been asking for as far as what you want a material to accomplish in your business. There's always some trade-offs with anything, so it doesn't do some things as quite as nice as this vinyl or that vinyl. But when you look at, I need one vinyl product for my business, it's going to do the vast majority of my jobs. This is going to be that product, and I think you're going to love a lot of the information about this product, trying to be as cryptic as I can with making sure you guys show up. But you're going to love this product. I won't take long to introduce it. So show up at 1 o'clock. It'll be a fun time. We'll spend about 30 minutes together doing a demo of the product and spend the last 30 minutes answering questions. But I know that you're going to love the new CAD-CUT Ultra Weed. So that'll be Friday at 1 Eastern. All right. And I know I probably looked over some stuff, but there was a lot. So one of the questions that I had in advance that I want to make sure I get to, I wrote them down over here, is how large is a logo on a mask? And so when you're thinking about decorating the face mask, logo size is critical. I ordered a bunch of logos in and ordered them way too big. So I would go definitely smaller. So I think a 1x2 inch would be about what I would plan for a horizontal logo. I wouldn't go much bigger than 1 inch. You'd be surprised on how big that looks on a face mask as far as, you know, a horizontal logo with the height. If you're doing more of a square or a round logo, then I'd probably go with something like 1¼ by 1¼ All right, and then I'm going to go down to some of the recent questions that have come in. Okay, here we go. I love this one. So my husband and I are just starting our business. What heat press would you suggest we purchase from Stahls for t-shirts, towels, bags, etc.? Look at the Stahls website, so much info, and enjoy the lives. Thank you. You're welcome on the lives. And so this is one of the biggest decisions for a business is what heat press do I get out of the gate? And it's even tough for us to give a recommendation sometimes because there's just so many different heat presses that we love at our company. And so if you're just getting started, you want to do more than just t-shirts, you want to expand, I would really position you 2 professional quality heat presses to select from. One is the Autoclam, which is a 16x20 that I've used here today. And another one would be the Hotronix Fusion in a 16x20. So I would choose between those 2, and let me tell you how I would arrive at the decision. And when I say the Autoclam must include the caddy stand. So you can see that mine has this cantilever design. There's, I have to come up to show you, there's actually a stand underneath it that goes completely down to the floor. That caddy stand or the tabletop stand is critical because the number one thing when you are purchasing a heat press outside of a quality machine that delivers accuracy, time, temp, and pressure, which all Stahls presses are going to deliver, then it comes to creature comfort of me operating the press and being able to get the items that I want onto the press flat to be able to print them. So you have to have a cantilever design, a threadable design, so you can split your item and load them flat. Now, if you see yourself venturing into higher volumes, then I personally like the Autoclam because it's space saving and it only takes one step. You just lock it down and it automatically opens. A lot of people worry about being under the heat of the clam, and that is a legitimate concern. But when you think about you're splitting your item and you're threading it on, 9 times out of 10, you are doing all of your layout at the widest part of the press that is open. So you don't need to worry about getting your hands back in there, burning yourself, and being under the heat at that level. Now, that being said, the Fusion is a great machine because it swings away and also operates as a drawer. So it does take you more steps with your arm to complete a single shirt, but it is going to give you the completely heat-free workspace to be able to load your item, as well as the touchscreen controls, so a lot fancier on the controls. So I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those machines. You'll have people that will advocate for both. I would just say get one of those machines and make sure you allow some of your budget for the attachments. I'm constantly using of course, the 16x20 attachment, but also the 6x10 inch and the 11x15 inch attachment. So either of those presses with your standard attachment, your 11x15 and your 6x10, and you'll be good to go. I personally landed on the Autoclam because I didn't really mind being under the heat to load and press. I wanted the auto open feature, so the single step operation, because I knew it was just going to be me running the press. And I needed the space saving design. It needed to fit into a certain location in my garage or spare bedroom. So that would be my answer to that. And folks that have invested in heat presses, feel free to chime in with your favorite. All right. Yeah, so Freddie says, my Autoclam with counter caddy makes work so much easier. Yeah, so the counter caddy is just not the freestanding stand. If you already have a tabletop, it just elevates it enough to give you about, I don't know, maybe a 10-inch gap space to be able to split and load your items. All right, another question, and I always get this one, and I understand, is do you have a time when the new 360 hat press will be ready? So here's our schedule as it sits today, barring any unforeseen circumstances. Those of you that have sent back your presses for the updates, those will ship out in the latter half of May. I'm told the 3rd and 4th week of May. So I'll be safe and say by the 1st week of June, we should be square on all of those machines. For those that are on the pre-order list, and there is a lot of you, and I mean a lot of you, those machines are going to ship out daily in the months of June and July, with our expectation to have everybody that's ordered so far, depending on where you were in line, to be completely shipped by the conclusion of July. If you place an order today to get on the pre-order list for that new hat press, which is a game changer, haven't been showing it because I almost don't want to sell it because you're just going on a list right now, but it's better to get on the list. We'll be shipping those in August, and we don't take your money until we ship. So look up that 360 IQ on YouTube on our channel and see what it can do. It's really awesome. And then, yeah, our team, if you can share a link to the 360, maybe a video from YouTube, I think that would be helpful. Ken asked, can you turn the auto open off? No, you can't turn the auto open off on this machine, but if you're worried about ghosting with sublimation, what I usually do is I'll keep my hand there to catch the auto open as soon as the time expires, and then that's effectively turning it off and letting it go open. So the same function that you would need on a manual machine if you were to be there to open it, just get there when the time expires, hold it, and open it. All right, let's see. Chris says Fusion is the best. He has 2. I got other advocates for the autoclam. Yeah, this is the fight that never wins, other than it's kind of like heat transfer vinyl. Do you want a sticky backing or do you not want a sticky backing? If it were just a little less tacky, if it were just a little more tacky, it's just there's not going to be a one-size-fits-all with some of these things. Okay, and with those big designs, I assume like the one we did with the Bulldog today, would the stretch litho be a possibility since it has a bigger sheet with no weeding? Yeah, I love that idea. I think the stretch litho would be a good possibility. My only concern, and I'd have to test it, would be stretch litho for durability requires a medium to firm pressure. It's very difficult to get a medium to firm pressure on a pillow, so much so that Transfer Express doesn't recommend using pillows with screen printed transfers. So there's a slight possibility it could work. That would be my concern. But if you can press it without the pillow and not so close to the seams, then yes. But otherwise, I think vinyl is probably a better choice. All right. We shared the Sharon loves her Fusion. Our good question by Patty. Are 2-year-old Hotronix hat presses able to be retrofitted with a friendlier platen? I own the 4 different platens too. So the autoclam, the auto cat press, and the max cat press do have their standard interchangeable platens, and I think there's about 6 of them. And so those would be the only choices available now. We will not, at this point in time or the future that I know of, have a heated lower platen for our other hat presses. However, we are going to continue to sell them because there's still a demand for those machines as well. Okay. Kimberly asks, why does the heated lower platen not work with the Fusion? And the reason is it's a safety risk because we can't have it UL and CE certified, because when you load that heated lower platen, it does have an outlet, and so and a plug attached to it. And so when you go to draw out the Fusion, it presents a safety risk there. And so that's why it's not recommended for the Fusion. However, if you happen to have an air Fusion or a dual air Fusion, then the heated lower platen works. But I love the point that this brings up, Kimberly, is, and I forgot about it, is if you want to go into heated lower platens to be able to press dimensional logos, then to get back to Renee's question, I think was her name, the autoclam is probably going to be a better fit if you're not going to go all the way up to an air model, because then you can add any attachments, including the heated lowers. So James asks, with the 16 by 20 autoclam or Fusion, was it expensive to add a dedicated circuit required for power in your home? So I actually didn't have to do this, so I'm going to turn that over to the audience. For those of you that have had to wire a dedicated circuit, I happen to have one available with the way my home was wired. And honestly, in my bedroom, I'm just making sure I don't run too many things on this circuit. I know how it maps out in my house. This actually pulls 14.5 amps, so I do have my auto open plugged in with my cutter right now, but I have my lighting kit and my laptop and my second monitor all on a separate circuit running a a power cord out through the house here. Can't imagine it's too expensive, but I don't know that answer, so I'm opening it up for everybody else to chime in and help James. If you're on YouTube and want to respond there, that'd be great. Otherwise, I'll share the comment on air if it comes through. Yeah, so Rick says the only drawback to an auto open is if you do sublimation, the vacuum upon opening can move the image and ghost. Again, there's two ways. That's grabbing the handle when it opens. I've also seen some folks that use the tacky paper. So there's some sublimation paper out there when you press it that will develop some tack to it, like a stickiness to it almost when it's heated, and that will help prevent the ghosting when you're working with that. Also, if you're doing like hard goods that are like metals, a lot of times we will flip over the sublimation print, lay that metal object onto it, and reverse sublimate it so you don't get that ghosting effect. But you're right, that is a fair concern if you're going to do a lot of sublimation with an auto open press. All right, I'm going to take a couple more questions before we conclude today. See some new ones down at the bottom. Sorry if I missed you. I'm going to look back through these. Okay, Patty says it only cost $180 for her to be able to add a 20 amp dedicated circuit. And yes, Rob, a 20 amp dedicated circuit is for what the recommendation for our 16 by 20 inch presses, because they pull 14.5 amps. Also, never run your heat press on an extension cord unless it's a extremely thick gauge. I forget what it is, but if you're running it on an extension cord, you're going to have issues, potentially damage the control board. So try to go directly in or run it on a thicker, more industrial grade extension cord. And Marie asked, do we still have the RGB values for our heat transfer vinyl available? Yes, we do. I have to figure out where those reside, but I know I'll write that question down and see if I can answer it on the next one. But I know we do those for our website, so I know we have the values. And Chris asks, if you're using the pillow, do you recommend more pressure or less? And so in the case where I was using the pillow today, I recommend more pressure because the pillow is going to automatically reduce your pressure because of its soft surface. So I usually, if I'm looking for a medium pressure, which would normally be a 5, let's say, on my normal base platen, I'm going to run that a couple numbers up because this machine has digital pressure. I'll run it on like a 7 with the pillow loaded to make sure I'm getting adequate pressure. All right. So yeah, any of the webinars that we've done will be available on our YouTube page. So I know that I think Mike did a fundraiser session. What is today? Tuesday? Yeah, it's Tuesday. Sorry. Mike did a fundraiser session yesterday, and that will be available on our YouTube page. Usually we take about a day, sometimes 2 days to turn them out, depending on how much workload we're tasking Joe with, who's doing a lot of this editing. All right. And I think we are pretty caught up. And I know there's a lot of people saying that they were able to do the work themselves as far as adding the dedicated circuit. But yeah, if you don't know how to do that work, just consult with an electrician, get a quote. Should be pretty straight forward. So want to thank everybody for joining today. I will be coming back to you Thursday. Jenna will be going live Wednesday and Friday at her normally scheduled times, which I believe is running at 3 o'clock right now in the afternoon Eastern time. And then Friday, don't forget, I have that special launch event. It's called Party in the USA. We're doing one big heat transfer vinyl launch. And we actually have another pretty cool launch coming from Transfer Express at the same timing, believe it or not, that I'm going to outline there as well. And who knows, maybe I'll preview some of what is coming up over the next few months because we have a ton of products queued up. So thanks so much for your time and participation. Love the questions and wishing you a great day today.